And welcome to Bounty Hunt, a UTD Network podcast where we hunt down all the extra content in the Star Wars universe. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me on this week's hunt to talk all about Andor Episode 6, The Eye, is a lovely batch of fellas, starting off with Dr. Corey Helton. Hey, man.
Hello. We are trying new technology this week, and we're going to see if it's going to work. Maybe it is. We will see.
I'm feeling good about it. We are using StreamYard for the first time. We've been OBS folks for a while. Some of you know, some of you don't, and hopefully it'll still be the same great show. And no matter what, I know it's going to be great because we have the glorious Dr. Charles Hankel with us. Happy Saturday, buddy.
Hey, guys. Happy Saturday. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about this episode. I know you guys already had an opportunity to do so with the good folks over at Star Wars Explained, but I want to join the conversation, dang it.
Yeah. For those of you that did get to check that out, Corey and I had a great time chatting with our friends Alex and Molly Damon over on their 10-year anniversary as well.
Yeah.
Which was so fun on Wednesday. Definitely go check out Star Wars Explained if you haven't already. Although if you haven't, I don't believe you. Everyone has, you know. But joining us finally to round up our quatrain this weekend, it is not Wes Jenkins, as he is on a hunt for the future of humanity to take down the menace that is the deer population of the South or North. I forget where you are, Wes. I think you might be in Dakota. But you know who is here is the glorious upcoming dad, Steven Smith. What's up, buddy?
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're so glad to have you. You are a glorious, luminous presence in our community and in our team, and you like Andor a bit. We hear.
Spoiler alert! I love this episode so much.
Excellent. That's the kind of spoiler we want on this show. Steven, much like the rest of us, has just been enjoying Andor to a absolutely stupid extent, I would say. It's kind of ridiculous how much we've all been loving this show. And this is your first bounty hunt. Welcome. What we're going to do, I'm going to do a brief recap of the episode. Full spoilers. Full spoilers. And oh my gosh, do not watch this episode without watching Andor first. You don't want to get spoiled for what's going to happen. But then we each have a couple conversational points we're going to bring up. We're each going to lead a little bit of the talk, and we're just kind of gush. It's nice to have a show where we don't have to really hem and haw about what we like. So going forward, again, full spoilers. Let's dive into episode 6 of Andor, The Eye. We begin. The Vel Cell, as they're affectionately known on this show, all settle their nerves for the upcoming mission. We meet Commandant Bihaz, who has arrived for the Eye, and the Aldani native people finish up their pilgrimage to the Imperial garrison for the big event. Cassian, Nemec, Terriman, and Skeen blend in with the Imperial officers as they escort the Aldani to the final sacred site under the watch of Lieutenant Gorn, as Vel and Cinta traverse underwater to plant a communication jammer. Gorn then leads the Commandant and the Vel Cell into the base, and once inside, the mission really begins. The gang immediately seals the room and trades their weapons on the Commandant, his wife, and their son. They are now hostages and will be killed if they don't cooperate. Vel and Cinta, meanwhile, join back up with the crew as the gang heads down to the vault. But as they do, the comm jammer begins to lose some effectiveness, and the Imperials start to understand what's going on. Once down in the vault, the cell orders the skeleton crew of workers to begin loading up all the Imperial credits onto the getaway ship, and the Dani continue their ritual as the money gets loaded. The Eye begins. One of the most visually stunning events in the entire galaxy, and frankly, the history of Star Wars media. Gorn's treachery is finally revealed to the Commandant, and as the commander realizes just how big this plan is, reinforcements are on their way. TIE fighters begin loading in at a neighboring air base. They're coming. Additional troops arrive at the vault to question the nature of the robbery as the Commandant has a freaking heart attack, falls down dead, and a firefight ensues, killing both Gorn and Terriman in the chaos. Cassian, Skeen, and Nemec board the escape craft, and Cassian rockets them out of the hangar and into the Eye, and it's stunning. It's stunning. Prosecco in it. As the ship climbs, a pile of credits rocket across the floor and crush Nemec's spine. He can't feel his legs, but he's still able to use the navigation device to help Cassian climb through the Eye, while TIE fighters are in pursuit. This part of the plan, at least, goes as they thought. Nemec's pain worsens, and after much debate, the crew agrees to take him to a doctor that was part of the contingency plan anyway. And they meet the best guy, Quad Paw. The doctor attempts to save the young man's life as Skeen reveals that he has an alternate plan. Abandon Vel and Nemec and split the 80 freaking million credits with Cassian. He never had a brother anyway. Cassian doesn't let him finish the idea as he guns him down and enters the surgery area to find Nemec dead on the table. He demands his cut from Vel, and he leaves. Back on Coruscant, word of the heist has reached the ISB, which is now all hands on deck, and the Imperial Senate, where Mon Mothma's impassioned speech is interrupted by the breaking news. We end on a shot of Luthen selling some merchandise when he is alerted by the mission's success. He excuses himself to the back room and begins to laugh. All right. God. Fellas. Yeah, thank you, Steven. They never say that to me anymore.
You did a good job.
Thank you. You know what? Thank you. You're welcome anytime.
Corey,
I love you. Corey, you're muted.
I know I'm still muted. It's usually not good, Steven.
That's true. This is one of the better ones. Finally, we have some quality on this show. But let's go around before we get into our specifics and just talk about what we thought about this episode in very base terms. We're going to do a bit of an order today. But Steven, as our honored guest, why don't you go first? I know you already said you loved it, but give us a little more. How was the Eye to you?
So the Eye. So first off, before I talk about the Eye, I'm convinced this episode is. I'm like blurry. Am I blurry? I got to do like.
No, you look good.
You're good.
Yeah.
Then,
You look great.
Yeah. I'm convinced that this is the best thing Disney Plus has ever put out. I like.
Dang, yes.
This is not just the best Star Wars thing. I think this is the best thing Disney Plus has ever done. It's so in terms of television shows, movies are different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, going back to the Eye though, what an incredible spectacle that was. It was so beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, starting us off strong. That new Mighty Ducks show. May want to have a chat with you, but great stuff for Disney Plus. Obviously, we got Chuck Quadpaw here in the bottom right. What did you think, Charles?
I am forevermore now Chuck Quadpaw. Big Quadpaw fan. I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. I have to agree with Steven. I think this probably is, and this hurts me to say. I think I've said this on Bounty Hunt before because I'm such a big Kenobi fan. I think this was probably the best episode of Star Wars TV we've ever gotten. And whoever
Dang.
drew all those little individual lines to make up the eye, I mean, someone did that, I'm sure.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how all that stuff
Probably
works,
a team of VFX artists.
yeah,
All
I'd
working
like to.
just
I'd
with
like
a
to
couple of
see like a
shots.
whole behind the scenes on them just
Yeah,
creating that
me
effect.
too.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely mind blowing. Corey, how about you, man?
Yeah, I was blown away by this episode. I mean, I'm totally with you, Steven. Like, I think it is the best show that's been put on Disney Plus. Like, yet it's so good. Obviously, Eric, you and I got to talk about it a lot already on Star Wars Explained. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Alex Damon's channel over on YouTube, and it was just a mind blowing episode. I mean, so much happened. I was very sweaty the whole episode.
Yeah.
You went
Like
through a lot.
I did. I was very sweaty and stressed out during this episode. And this is the 6th episode of the season. Like, why did this feel like it feels like a finale? Like, it's weird. 6 episodes is like the magic one. We're only halfway there. It's a mid-season finale. So
Yeah.
I really don't see how they're possibly gonna top it for a finale for the show, because quite frankly, this was just
Bite your tongue,
unbelievably
Corey.
good. I know. That's why I know they're probably going to, but still, I have to say it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just such a good show.
We have to acknowledge the majesty of it, and I know going forward, we've said previously on the show that it's going to be 4 3-episode arcs. I did find out this week apparently that is slightly correct, but also there is one caveat, as in next week's episode 7 is going to be a standalone episode, and then there will be one more 3-episode arc and then a 2-part finale. So that's where we're going. But I want to start off on our first kind of general point today. I'm looking at our notes, and a lot of us did bring this up. Is this the most visually stunning piece of Star Wars media we've gotten on TV? But also, I want to expand this to the films, because my first thought after seeing especially the end of just climbing through the eye, I'm like, this is on par with, I think, every Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great question. There's probably a handful of shots. I mean, let's run through them really fast.
Yeah.
That are just like the most visually stunning shots in all of Star Wars. I will start with the Holdo maneuver in The Last Jedi.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that is truly one of the most beautiful visual and audio, really even like effects that we've ever seen. What else is up there for you guys?
I'd say also from The Last Jedi is the fight with when Kylo and Rey.
The Praetorian Guard fight,
Yeah.
Yeah, the throne
that
fight.
to me is
the
stunning.
red. Mhm.
Yep, I love all that. I think also maybe in Force Awakens, the X-wings on the water to Maz's castle, we kind of get that whole shot.
What about from Rogue One? I love when the Death Star actually fires and takes out the top of that tower and goes
The
into
green,
the water.
you can see the
and-
green reflection in Krennic's eyes. Yeah, this is up there with that stuff, I think.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What were you gonna say, Steven?
Another one that I would add into that is it's actually in episode 3. It's where there's like this shot where Anakin is looking out the window and Padme is like across the way on Coruscant.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It kind of cuts back and forth between the two of them.
He turns,
and it's like
single tear.
Yeah. there's no dialogue in that. It's almost like this, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, like operatic music in the background, and it's so. I love that scene. It's so beautiful. But this, I think I don't know. This is at the top for me.
Yeah, I think it's up there.
And we've talked recently on, how we can tell that certain shows were filmed in the volume now in retrospect, and now we can see Andor is so much more. And obviously, the eye isn't a real thing. As you said, Charles, someone had to create that. But I remember watching it for the second time, and I'm watching the eye, and I'm like, gosh, the reflections on their faces through the glass is so on point. Like, that's the hard stuff for me that I'm like, how like it reminded me of Solo. Honestly, the Kessel Run is another kind of visual that I really kind of went there. But this is like the Kessel Run with like LED RGB lights everywhere, and like and another shot in this episode I want to compare it to. Andrew Bell on our team posted it in our Slack. It's when the TIE fighter pilots are going into their TIEs and you see the green in the background, and it's like the glorious eye with like this terrifyingness of the TIE fighter pilots getting ready to fly out. Like.
Yeah,
this was cinematic, plain and simple.
I was really impressed and moved with how like we didn't just get the eye, like we like built up to it, right? Like in the very early on, we got the the meteor or whatever flying through, and the sound effects, they sound like a ship almost in the sky.
Yeah,
the guy was like, oh yeah, there's the first one, like it really built up to the fact that it was going to be epic. And I feel like by the time we got to it, we knew it was going to be really, really epic. And even then, it still knocked my socks off. I mean, seriously, the VFX of the eye and those shots is just, it's very, very impressive, to be honest. Like, very, very impressive.
One thing I will say about, so I had actually forgotten that they mentioned the eye early on in episode 4, I think, or maybe even before that, but they mentioned the eye, and then I had forgotten about it. I forgot that it was going to happen, that it was going to be this big event. And then when that first meteor shot across, I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what is that? And then, they don't really say much about it. They just kind of let you figure it out as more of them show up. And I feel like that, for me, is why I'm loving Andor, is they don't really spoon feed you the information in the show. Like, a lot of it, in terms of like why characters are doing things and or different story beats, you kind of have to figure out along the way and wait for it to be revealed to you. And I love that. It doesn't hold your hand. And I love it. It's great.
Yeah. And like Rocky says here in the chat too, the visual, like, of just like, once you finally get to it, like the final visualization of the whole thing was really, really awesome and incredible.
Like, you understand why the Donnie will walk across the whole area to witness this thing. Like, if you could take these visuals and combine them with like a religious experience, like I get it. Like, if this is the kind of thing that like your God or what have you is putting on in the universe, I'm like, yeah, okay. You know what?
They really got that. Yeah, it's kind of secondary to just the visuals of the lights in the sky. The sort of cultural thing that we got all around the event itself was really pretty cool. I think that's probably what Rocky is talking about here in the chat. Is I loved how diverse the group was. First of all, like, it was an incredibly diverse group of humans, right? That was cool. I love that they had a different language. That, again, we're seeing that no subtitles for a different language, which I love. Oh my God, I love that. That is so cool. And then, like, at the peak moment, like, they're all crying and they're singing and this choral kind of music. Like, it was awesome, man. They really got that right.
Yeah, that amazing juxtaposition of like, we are celebrating our most amazing moment as down in the barrels, like this chaotic battle is going on. Like, it was really, again, I get why you were sweaty, Corey. It was this huge moment. And we just mentioned something about hands, and I look for segues all the time. I do. Chuck, Charles, I gotta give you this hands moment, because let's talk about your dude. We have 2 doctors on the show, and we finally got another freaking surgeon. Let's talk about some of the medical stuff in this show, but Charles, walk us through what Dr. Quadpaw did to you in this episode and why he took up half your notes here.
Quadpaw is like my favorite thing to come out of this episode, probably next to the eye, mostly because how is it canon that his name is Quadpaw and he has 4 arms?
I don't know.
Is that his birth name? Like, there's no way. He had to have become Dr. Quadpaw.
I don't know.
And he actually looks really similar to Maz Kanata and Lobot.
Also, too.
Yeah. So, like, I know it doesn't make any sense, like, in actual canon, but in my head, that he is their child. And
there's some Ochi vibes in there too.
There are some Ochi vibes, with the goggles. But I think my favorite thing about Dr. Quadpaw is that he's probably hurting for business, right? Because he's like living in a hut in the middle of nowhere. And I think I see why. I think I know why he's hurting for business, guys. I think he's not a good doctor because he was using 4 ungloved hands to perform neurosurgery on poor Nemec. So I'm not surprised that Nemec died. I don't know about you guys, but I got spoiled. It took me a day to watch this, and you know how Twitter is nowadays. I got spoiled. I knew that Nemec was going to die, even though that was, you kind of had that suspicion to begin with. But as soon as I saw those naked quad paws, I was like, for sure,
he's
done
screwed,
for.
man. I made that joke on Star Wars Explained. I said that Nemec didn't die because he got crushed by all the gold. He died because he had spinal neurosurgery performed on him while he was laying on his side. By the way, like what the hell kind of position is that to put somebody in a spinal operation with a doctor that had no gloves on, and he didn't have any anesthesia either. So
True,
like he just had a mask on. Like you what the hell, man? Like of course he died. Doctor killed him, dude. Freaking murdered him.
Could have been better. No, I want to ask you, Steven.
I know. I hope the Rebellion has that built into some of that money, the $80 million. Maybe they can spend that on.
Well, guys, that's episode 7. It's a medical trauma. It's a
standalone
of suing Dr. Quad.
We're gonna get the like psychopath surgeon from episode 4. I can't remember his name.
Evazan.
Yeah, Evazan is going to testify at the trial.
Absolutely. Or the mod guy from Book of Boba Fett. That's what we needed. He's got 100% success rate as far as we've seen on screen, right? He can just do whatever he wants.
And he's a great bass guitar player. So
he is. In all actuality, Thundercat.
It's a
real thing.
Yeah.
Now, Steven, back on last week's episode, we all kind of made our predictions of who was or wasn't going to make it. And as we said, this one seemed kind of obvious to us. Did this one take you by surprise, or were you kind of expecting it as well?
I was not expecting it. I thought he was going to pull through. And when that went, but here's the thing though, looking back on it, it's at the beginning of this episode, he's come around on Cassian. Mm-hmm. He's like the only one in the group who's like optimistic and he's going to die. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. Is like the one who's like the nicest one of the group is the one who gets the short end of the stick. And the moment when the payload slides back and crushes him, genuinely shocked me though.
Same.
Yeah, I found myself audibly gasping when you hear him kind of get like crushed behind that thing. And so it's so sad though, because and I was like, he'll make it. He'll be fine. They're going to the doctor. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
They're going to
that always works.
As Charles and I know, that doesn't mean shit.
That's the thing in science fiction there, right? Is that like every single show that we've almost ever had, Star Wars and otherwise up to this point, if you just get them there, then you're usually pretty good.
Just need
that's the hard part of it. You know what I mean? And then it's like, but the metaphor of that being the reason that it happens, of like, oh, they make it through all the Imperial stuff, and then the success of the mission literally crushes him.
Yeah.
Of his own faith, his own belief is like so resonant.
Let's just shift the conversation and entirely talk about Nemec for a minute.
Let's do it.
Think,
I
love
you.
Nemec,
love you.
I know Nemec is, I think, without a doubt. I'm not sure if anyone will disagree, the best character that we've had so far in this show. Like, he's such a lovable character. Alex said on Star Wars Explained that like he knew immediately that he was screwed. As soon as he was such a lovable, likable character, he knew he was screwed. But let's talk about him for a minute, because this character is very interesting. We've never seen anybody in Star Wars be so philosophical or political science-y about like the rebellion and stuff. And that is very cool and interesting and unique, because I feel like that's like a key part of every societal revolution has to have those people, right? That are
he's
kind
very
of
eloquent about every bit of it.
Yeah. They're the preachers kind of about the revolution, and like that was really cool to see that. Like that was sort of developed over the course. He keeps having these more and more like intense rants almost about like the state of the galaxy and stuff. And that's obviously rubbing off on Cassian as well. Mm-hmm. And I love that we concluded with the fact that all of these political ramblings have been given to Cassian at the end. So he's a cool character.
That's how Nemec's legacy, I think, is going to live on, is the lessons that Cassian gets from that manifesto moving forward. And it's hard not to think, because, he was the youthful guy with all these great ideas. And, you could see him writing some hella good speeches. Like, he would have been part of the rebellion's leadership, I think. Oh, my word, Eric just changed his name to Nemec's crushed spine.
Oh, dear.
That is so dark. But Nemec would have been up there, I think, honestly, with, like, Mon Mothma. Like, maybe he wouldn't have made the speeches, but, like, he would have been writing like the speeches behind the scenes, I think, and developing some of those ideas. And I think the way that he challenged Cassian and they had those conversations about like, well, what do you believe, Cassian? Like, are you really here just for the money? Like, those questions are going to kind of haunt Cassian as he goes through that manifesto. And I think that's going to be what propagates him to come around and really become like, no, I'm like here for the rebellion.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine we get to the point where he does survive and we get to Coruscant and he gets to meet Mon, he gets to be in those meetings, see the rebellions, like kind of see that whole thing happen. Like, I feel like this was a goal he was always going to, but he's also, in retrospect, if you had to tell him, hey, you're not going to make it, but your sacrifice will do this, I think he would also be like, I think that's cool. I think I'm good with that. I think that he expected this, and I think this will be in the manifesto, which I desperately hope like Inside Editions like publishes for us. I want to read it. Like I want to buy this.
But he had no place there, man. Like he was not a soldier.
No,
you do have to.
Although he was a crack shot, though. That one shot he hit, that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean he held his own, but you do. I think it does make you think that the rebellion is really hurting for people.
Yeah,
because like he's not someone who probably should have been like front line like that, but he was.
Yeah, but I think that like the rebellion in some ways is a mixture of both soldiers and philosophy, because it's not like
it is
like, and that's what this show is doing though. It's more than just like, empire bad, rebellion good. It's like, which is, I think, here's the thing, love Star Wars, but it's been really binary for a long time. And this show is showing a lot of the gray area that both sides have to kind of decipher through. And I think that people like Nemec are the ones that are giving people a reason to fight at all, other than like, well, we want to have a rebellion. It's like, well, why have a rebellion?
Yeah. I mean, the heroes bound and gagged and threatened to kill a child in this episode, and we're like cheering them on.
But he was always sick. Like, who cares? Now he won't be sick anymore. Bang,
maybe she did kill all of those kids, like those people. Yeah, we don't know. We need to come. Let's come back to that in a minute. I wanted to highlight Caroline's point here that like Nemec should be the speechwriter for Mon. I love that.
Oh my god, in a West Wing show, yes,
that's perfect. I think having this political ideology stuff with Nemec has just been really incredible, and I hate to see him go, man. It really, really broke my heart. I was pretty torn up for probably 2 to 3 hours after I watched it. My wife was literally in tears. We had to have like a moment, like after we finished the show, of like, this was very upsetting. And I don't think that I have ever walked away. I've not walked away from any other single Star Wars project feeling like this, other than Rogue One. I remember walking out of Rogue One feeling this deep, melancholy, emotional feeling of like, I really want to see this again. This hurt me. Like, this visualization hurt me emotionally. And that's how I felt coming out of this episode. I'm like, this is live action TV is doing this to me, man. This is crazy. And I think Nemec is really the reason for that. I mean, he was the ideology sort of the group. Like, he was the representation of the group, and to lose him so brutally too was just incredibly heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I like how that kind of tied into one thing I wanted to bring up, which was obviously at the end of the episode. I know we're bouncing all over the place, which is great. But Skeen, I think that that final moment for a couple reasons was shocking. One, I loved that throughout the episode we do still see Skeen. That was a horrid tongue twister. Still see Skeen, like showing a lot of affection towards Nemec. Like, he clearly loves this kid, and I think that was really beautiful. And I kind of wonder if even after we get the revelation that he doesn't have a brother, whether you believe that or not, I think that is how he viewed Nemec. So maybe it's like he lost him again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Although he technically didn't know he was dead at that point. I think your mileage may vary. But do you guys think that...
he had dialogue about that, actually. He said something along the lines about, I knew he was dead immediately. Didn't he? I think he did.
Oh, did he?
I'm pretty sure he did. Oh. I'm pretty sure he did. Like, not that I literally know he's dead, but it was something along the lines, I knew as soon as I saw him that he was screwed, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was a piece of dialogue in there about Nemec from Skeen. But Skeen was also shocking to me a little bit. That whole scene just totally shocked me. Just like the way it played out, the way Skeen sort of changed, and when Cassian freaking quick draw shot him in the chest, I did
not expect that.
No.
Me either. That really shook me. I was like, hot damn. Like, that happened really quickly. It was really interesting to see the sort of how that speech that he was giving, sort of the monologue about how screw everybody else is just, it's just, we're here just for ourselves, affected Cassian. It's interesting to see him rejecting that a little bit. Like,
yeah.
And also the acting of Diego Luna in this, it was unbelievable. I mean, you could see the emotion in his face and
realizing like, oh God, if I don't do this, I'm not gonna make it to the next planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're telling me I can split this money? Yeah, okay, we've all seen that movie. Right? Like you're gonna take 40 when you could have 80 and just kill me tomorrow.
Yeah.
It also plays into who Diego Luna or who Cassian eventually becomes in Rogue One. The opening of Rogue One is we see him, he kills that dude who's working with him. And it's like, I think the parallel there,
because he's a liability. He kills him because he's a liability. Yeah.
It's the same scenario here though, is like, he's like, this dude's a liability for me, whether I go with him or for the team right now. Like, this guy can't stick around. And so I think it plays into his ideology in the long run of, I got to nip it in the bud before it ends up biting me.
He was a lot more comfortable, though. I do think we might even see it continue from here, because when he killed the guy, albeit on accident, at first, in like the very first episode, he was shook by the fact that he killed that guy.
Yeah.
Now, the second guy, he then just shot point blank, but he didn't want to. In this instance, he drew that gun with every intent, like he knew what he was doing, like he was adamant about taking that action. And so we've seen him develop even in a relatively short time. Now he's not only willing to do that if it comes to it, but he's if the opportunity arises, like he's kind of taking it. It's pretty dark.
I want to ask you guys this: if the credits don't fall and we don't hear that crunch, right? And we don't go to the Doctor Planet. We just go to wherever the initial rendezvous was. Do Skeen and Cassian had that conversation? Do you think that Skeen still tries to bring that up, or because Nemec is still there and everything's still and the plan kind of keeps going?
I have a lot of trouble with that. I think because I don't know that we will ever figure it out. Like, I don't know if Skeen was real ever. Like, if he was always just like a shitbag, or if he kind of snapped because his buddy.
No, Nemec snapped. That was the problem.
Yeah, Nemec snapped, which caused Skeen to snap, and then Cassian snapped. Everybody snapped. But I don't know. Skeen's motivations are interesting. I don't know if he was always a villain, I guess, or if he just sort of, I don't know.
Well, and the way that I kind of viewed it is, at first I thought that he was testing Cassian. He's like, I'm going to test, like, because they never had a good relationship from the jump. Like, he never trusted Cassian, and then vice versa. And then I think the way that as that whole exchange was playing out, I thought that it was that Skeen was like, I still don't trust Cassian, so let's just see if he buys into this, and then I'll I thought that he was going to try and rat Cassian out, and it seemed like it was going that direction. So when Cassian just straight up murdered him, that was double shocking for me.
Yeah.
I think if you look back, like with Skeen, he probably, I don't think he was evil the whole time. I don't think he could have been. And I mostly say that because how did he get there? Like, how did he get included in this group to begin with? It's not like he could have known the rebellion was a pathway to millions of credits. Like that, there's no reason to think that. So
I'm joining up with this because it's gonna happen at some point.
So
sleeping on a bush or something,
And they wouldn't just invite anybody in either. Like, he proved himself somehow to be in that group. So I think we saw the worst parts of Skeen come through in that moment. And when he lost Nemec as that angel on his shoulder, good influence pulling him towards us, that is when he couldn't hold it back anymore. He made a bad decision, and he paid the price.
I think that's it. And I think that, like Rocky's comment we saw, like, I think that Nemec is why he was on the good side. I think that's kind of where as many days after I've been processing it, I think that's where I'm landing as well, that he probably was in it for the right reason, at least to start. And now I think after this mission, he's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to survive the next 4 of these. And if I'm in this rebellion, I'm just going to do this until I die. So I might as well just cut bait at this point.
Well, and this was mission number 1 for them. And here's the thing: they got out, but like someone died, and then they had to leave on the planet. The whole thing was kind of a disaster, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think for him, he's like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna take my money and run.
I do think there was an interesting moment too with Skeen where I took it as like foreshadowing, but I didn't understand it in the moment. When Terriman says "cover me" and he runs out, Skeen at first is covering him, and then he pulls back while Terriman's still running, and that's right when he gets shot in the back. And so, in a way, it was kind of that first moment of like, "Whoa, why would he do that?" And I don't know that it was really meant that way in the writing, but looking back, I still don't really fully understand why he did that. Was he trying to cut the crew down some? So I don't think so.
I think it was a moment of cowardice. I think
maybe so.
What he was trying to portray. I mean, he's Upham from Saving Private Ryan, right? He like loses his cool a little bit there because this is the first firefight he's in. I mean, if he is really like Cassian, kind of it's implied that he's just really in it for himself and that sort of stuff. Like maybe this is his first real battle, and he's decided that. You know, as Finn decided that he doesn't want anything to do with it, right? So
they were farmers. You know, I think that he talked about his brother had these and whether his brother is real or whether he's talking about himself in that story. Maybe he was the one that had all the tree farms. Maybe he was the one that the Empire screwed over, and he's using his brother as like a catalyst to hide himself. Like, how many times has he held that weapon? Like, he's obviously can do something with it, but I think that as we all can assume, there's a lot of difference between holding a gun, learning to march, and actually being in the midst of a firefight. When you were told, you wouldn't have to be. They were told all they'd have to do was hold some guns and scream and load it up, and then all of a sudden, there's tons of people fighting at you. I think it's very different.
I'm also just convinced that he's the same character from The Bear.
Yes, come on. Shout out to The Bear. These are the 2 best shows of the year, maybe.
He plays a really good sleazy guy.
He does.
He does.
Which, speaking of sleazy stuff, can I just say that when Cassian bounced, they had established that no one else could fly that ship, right? Like, that's why Skeen even was like, "Hey, you and I can get out of here." Otherwise, Skeen could have gone and tried to take the ship himself. So, like, let's talk about the fact that Cassian did still, even though he got them out, he did still screw Vel over because she's stuck there with Quadpaw, with all that money and no way to get it off the planet because she can't fly that thing.
I think, I hope next episode is just Vel and Quadpaw for Ahsoka just chilling, being like, well, Luthen will be here in a week, so what do you do?
Like a taxi service, or do you guys have Uber here? Like
Uber.
Can we play some cards? And he's always cheating because he has like other cards behind his back.
That's a good question. Also, Vel seemed weirdly okay with the fact that Cassian was leaving. That was odd to me. I wonder if that was an editing thing, or if there's more to the story there.
Maybe
are they safe on this moon? Are they close? Like, I don't know. It felt weirdly. This is an editing thing. It felt weirdly close, like to wherever they were, whatever that planet is.
Oh yeah. Planets in Star Wars are always like 5 minutes away. No, even if they're like 10,000 light years next system. You know.
Yeah, we never saw them enter hyperspace. I don't think, did we? I don't think so.
I don't think
would that thing have had hyperspace capabilities?
Probably
I guess
not.
Maybe, but
I don't know. But I thought it was interesting they landed it. Wasn't there another planet in the sky? Like, is it a moon of this planet? That seems like a bad place to hide.
There was
I don't know. I don't know about you guys. If I'm like leaving Earth, I don't want to just go to the moon and hide. You know what I mean? Like
right under there.
It seemed like exactly. I don't know. That was interesting.
But the Vel thing was interesting to me too, because maybe she's stranded there. Obviously, I'm sure she gets off at some point. Do we see her come back? Because the last thing that she knows of Cassian is that he kind of betrayed them, or at least left her stranded. I assume her and Cinta, if Cinta got out, that they would still be a part of the rebellion. And it's not that big of an operation at this point. So we're probably going to jump ahead in time. Do we see maybe Vel and Cassian have to work together again in the future, and then Vel has to decide whether or not she can trust him? I think it could be an interesting thing.
I have information for us. The planet, according to the trivia episode guide on StarWars.com, that they go to Quadpaw is called Fresno. Not California, but it is spelled F-R-E-Z-N. It's Fresno. That's literally what it's called.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Okay.
And all they have on the Wook right now, because obviously this is a brand new planet for the episode. It's a planet located in a forgotten sector of the galaxy, not far from Eldani. So I think we can assume it's not hyperspace.
Every time I hear anything about the show that's just not like totally Star Wars, like, and with what little I know about Tony Gilroy, I just think in my head that Tony Gilroy just continually doesn't understand Star Wars. So he like writes the script and he's like, all right, so they're gonna go hide out in Fresno, California, and all the writing team is like, no, we can't do that. Earth is not a thing in Star Wars. He's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be Fresno. So they like, all right, compromise. The planet is called Fresno, but no one ever explains it. No one ever explains it to Tony Gilroy. Like, so he just thinks that they're in Fresno, California the whole time, and it's not until after the fact, right? Same thing with the Doctor, Quad Paw. They did the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, a bear with 4 arms.
Someone made a great point that I think it was Jacob that said like Quad Paw really kind of harkens back to some of the Kenner toys that were like Hammerhead face or Yak face.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good point, actually.
Classic Star Wars name of like, what is what are
Hammerhead?
You? What are the 2 words we can use? Snaggletooth, Quad Paw. Like, he's absolutely a Kenner toy.
Yeah,
like
that's
100%.
True,
now, earlier we mentioned her a bit, but Charles, you had a really great point about this, and Steven as well. Let's chat about kind of where we leave the others at the end, especially Cinta. Steven, what did you think about Cinta when we saw her walking out? Like, where are you on what she did or didn't do and where she's going?
It actually didn't register for me at first. I was like, oh, she got out. Cool. But then as it like clicked, like as I thought about it for like a day, I'm like, wait a minute. But like she was holding all those people hostage, including a child. I think that she killed all of them because
she looked upset. Wasn't she crying at the end?
She was distraught. And
yes,
here's the thing. It's not like the people are going to see her in an Imperial uniform and be like, don't know who that is. Like for a liability for herself, she had to have killed them in order to survive because that way no one knows who she is.
Because no one was running after her being like, stop her. She's held us hostage. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a hell of a storyline to go. I mean, that like, I wanted to highlight this comments that we got way earlier ago. Bert, I'm not even sure if Bert is still watching, but this was a great comment. That what are our thoughts on Chekhov's belt and expanding waistline, taking a dark turn when an Imperial commandant suffer a heart attack after performing forced labor? Like, this is grown up Star Wars. Like, we're seeing like medical consequences. I thought that was really dark.
I love the phraseology of Chekhov's belt. Like Chekhov's belt. Like you see the belt so Chekhov's gun, for those who may not know, is a theatrical term.
It is.
In Chekhov's plays, if you show a gun in a play, you have to use it by the end. It has to pay off. So when we see the belt, the belt is there for a reason. It's not to make a fat joke. It's not to do a thing. It's to intentionally show that he is out of shape. So by the end, that pays off. And I'm like, that is such a specific thing. And I love the way you said that, Bert. And again, I sound like a broken record at this point, but that's not something we see in any other show.
It's really, really dark. I mean, if that is, I'm not sure if we'll ever get confirmation of that. But like, if that is the story that they just told on TV, that the rebellion killed a bunch of hostages, that's a really dark storyline. It's a war crime, man. Like, that's like pretty dark stuff.
That's, also, I think Quad Paul was that guy's doctor clearly because fitness was not working for him. Maybe it all goes back to Quad Paw, Charles.
I will say, I found that to be a little bit striking, just in general. Like that, we had this funny little story arc of this Imperial who's fat and like he's overweight and he's like they're implying that he's not of good health because of his gluttonous lifestyle, right? Because he's.
He says, let's like go tuck into a nice table or something like that.
Yeah,
later.
exactly.
Like he's
right.
clearly
literally says they're so fat and satisfied.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
And then we see him like really struggling through that whole scene of the physical labor. We really see him struggling. And then he has a heart attack and dies like in the middle of it. Like, what an interesting thing to do. They didn't have to do that at all. But that's like, there were story bits of that character arc throughout this entire episode. Everything from like talking about drinking with his higher up and stuff. Like it really portrayed this story that this guy is a gluttonous, powerful, guy. So,
what was
Bert is still watching. Hello, Bert. Thank you. Thanks for the
Thank you,
super
super
chat,
chat.
too. Thanks for
Yeah,
answering the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a really interesting idea to bring in the heart attack, by the way. We've never seen anybody have a heart attack. I've never heard that described. Like we had our
True.
medical episode like a year ago or something, Charles. Remember
Yeah,
all of the science of medicine in Star Wars is pretty wackadoodle, to be honest. So,
Yeah, and we keep
like,
getting
it was
more, which
interesting.
is so fun.
You
Yeah,
know what? Something I noticed with that Imperial officer and his family. I don't know if you guys felt this way, but for me, it felt like his family was not down with what the Empire was about. Like they seemed
agree.
like they were just like kind of icky with the things that he was doing and what we see in the just how the Empire is. I don't know. It's like they just felt not down with him. I don't know.
Yeah. He was really mean to his son. He was like,
Yeah.
he's always sick. He's always sick. And the mom's like, oh, he's got a fever. And he's
That
like, don't you
kid
want to
would-
get off of this stinking planet? Like, I just love that
Yeah.
family dynamic there. Even
It felt like
she
those
like yells
kids-
at him too, right?
Yeah,
She yells at him, she's like, do whatever they say. Like, it's obviously there's some, differencing
yeah.
of ideology between the family a little bit there too.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah.
And it's
Sorry.
like those kids that you see in the limelight on Twitter or TikTok whose like parents run for office, and the kids are like, my dad sucks. Like they're very much like, don't vote for him. He's a liar. And I'm like, if this kid has that kind of vibe, that's like, I don't like him. Like, maybe the kid likes Aldani. Maybe the kid actually likes this, and the mother just cares about her son and is like, maybe pre-Empire they had a happier marriage when it was the Republic or whatever or what have you. But like she and the kid are clearly on a different side. And I think it was interesting.
Like Rocky says, the kid doesn't want to wear the clothes either. That was a small little detail.
He doesn't want to do anything with his dad. And I think it's interesting, though, that this Commandant, who, by the way, another great Star Wars performance of we meet him and we lose him. Same episode, but very memorable on that actor. I thought it was really cool that when push came to shove, he did want to protect his family. At the end of the day, like he did say, do whatever they want, be okay, because they're going to kill my family. Like, he did love them in his way. I feel like I'm making apologies for him because he is kind of a dick, but you know what I mean? Like, I saw that.
I think it both can exist in the sense that I think that he can love them and he can be a dick. And he has a love for the Empire too. He's like, I'm trying to, like, he really wants to advance in his career. Yep. And it really shows in a really negative way. And he really loves his family. I think he's doing it because he loves his family, but it's like kind of taken over his morality in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's nice, harkening back to what you said earlier, Stephen, about how Star Wars is always so binary and it's either a good guy or a bad guy. And Luke Skywalker, at the end of the day, at least in the original trilogy, is a pretty one-note dude, right?
Yeah.
But everyone in this series, from that guy to Cassian to, really everyone is very multifaceted. And we've already been surprised by actions people have made and choices they've made. And I think that's going to continue. I really feel like the story-wise, it's just wide open.
Yeah. And I think like we make a lot of cool points about all these characters, and I always hear as an actor, your character is the lines you say and the lines that people say about you, right? And Rocky actually has a great comment here. I just wanted to highlight where he talks about the Commandant, and he says Gorn hated the guy, and he said like he'd rather be in hell or something, than dealing with him. And I thought that was like a fascinating way to say it. Also, Corey's abandoned us because he hates us, and maybe he'll be back soon. Oh gosh, Corey's power went out. No, we're still going live, baby. All right, so while Corey gets back, I did want to hit then one other thing that you said here, Charles, as we kind of ended the whole episode. Mm-hmm. The band broke up. I love how you said that. We got Skeen, Nemec, Terriman gone. Cassian maybe did something despicable. Cinta maybe did something despicable. So, like, if we do see this crew reunite, right, hypothetically, which that being said, I don't think we're going to see them. Definitely not in episode 7. Probably not in the next arc. Are they like, oh, hey, Val, we cool? I'm back in the rebellion. Sorry, I know I had to peace out and abandon you, but like, What in the world does that do?
I don't know, because I think, like, on one hand, I think she kind of knew what she was getting in a way. Like, she knew that she wasn't when she got Cassian. I don't think she thought she was getting someone for the long haul.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know, though. It's like things did not end on a good note, and she didn't seem too pleased about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't answer your question at all.
No, I kind of has like
The answer is we don't know, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting question, and for some reason in my head we know Cassian stays with the rebellion, but we know everything's very splintered, so they could both remain with the rebellion in one way or another and not cross paths. But I feel like they're going to, probably in a pretty crucial moment, and we're going to have to see Vel put like the rebellion above her own feelings, right?
Ooh, sure.
And say, like, I have to trust this guy for the good of the mission because that's what's best for the rebellion, even though she doesn't trust him on a personal level. But Cassian's probably grown by that point enough where he's maybe able to gain her trust through whatever it is that he does. Because right now, to her, he's a mercenary, and he acted like a mercenary.
Yeah, he did the job, he got paid, and he got out. Like, out of all of them, he was kind of weirdly, at the end of the day, the most honest one. He's like, he didn't accept the bribe to increase his price. He didn't just join up there with the rebellion because of an emotional thing. He kind of did exactly what he said he was going to do. So she can't really be too mad at him, I guess.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And on that note, too, of Cassian being the most honest one, in the previous episode, when basically Cassian gets outed and he has like they see the Kyber crystal and people don't trust him. I love that he immediately was like, I'm getting paid. That's why I'm here. Because I feel like in a lot of storylines, not Star Wars, but just movies in general, is that we see there becomes like a schism between people working together because of a lack of communication. Like, there is a lack of trust purely because people just don't talk to each other. Like, a lot of stuff. Here's the thing. As much as I absolutely love The Last Jedi, Holdo withholding information from Poe made him not trust her. And it kind of it created this unnecessary animosity between them. And I love that Cassian right out the gate was like, hey, I don't want people looking over my shoulder. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder and thinking someone's coming for me. So I'm here for the money, but I am here though. And I don't know. Great writing. So good.
Yeah. That's what we keep coming back to, I think, with the Gilroys, because obviously this arc being written by Dan Gilroy, the first arc being written by Tony, there's just something special with the way they harness Star Wars and the morality. And what I want to end on here is one of your points here, Stephen, where you're talking about this gray area of morality that we see. Obviously, we've talked a lot about some of the rough events, that's really putting it lightly, that this crew has gone through during this episode and the extent to which they go through to complete the mission. But I love what you said about the Empire being appalled by certain things that these now rebels do despite their actions. So chat a little bit about why is it such a big deal that a single child kind of got taken hostage by people who are essentially a fascist regime? Like, why was that so fascinating to see?
I thought it was interesting because in the formation of, so a couple things. I think in the formation of the rebellion, we're seeing them like they are starting from nothing. Like they have no money, and which is why this whole mission exists to begin with. Which, real quick, I don't know about you guys. I thought that the Imperial payroll was going to be like a list of names, and they were going to dox all these.
I thought
really?
the same thing, Steven. I thought the exact same thing. I didn't know it was physical.
I thought it was
pay
money
for people. Yeah,
but that's cool.
Even when they got to the place, I'm like, oh, those are records of all the people.
Right.
And only until one spilled over, I'm like, oh, it's actually cash.
This is cash. We're getting cash.
And that was. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like they need money, and so to my point is that they're at a point where they're figuring it out as they go. Like they're like, we're here for the money, but a lot of the stuff is like there is no code of ethics for the rebellion. It's not like they have a list of things that they do and they don't. They're really just kind of figuring it out from the bare bones. And I think as part of that, they make rash decisions, and that part of that is taking a child hostage, because for them, it's the child is not a child. He is an obstacle and also a pawn to be able to get them through this mission of theirs. Plain and simple. And it's like, it sounds dirty, and it is. But that's, I think, what's so interesting about this is, like, if you think about this from a political standpoint, in the real world, I think the people in the Empire, these are the most interesting villains for me, are people that think that they're the good guy, and they think that they're doing the right thing. And the people in the Empire, like, they think, they're like, no, I'm doing the right thing. Like, the Empire is, like, clearly better than the Republic. And I don't think, going back to the parallel of what it always is or what Star Wars was from the beginning, is fascism. And so Nazi Germany, most of the people in that thought they were doing the right thing, because the person that you were listening to, they believed what they were saying. And I think that's just the interesting thing about this is the Empire, they're not bad or good. I mean, they're bad, but they think that they're the good guys at the end of the day.
Right. We're bringing order to this, order is the big thing, where there's inspections, there is time, everything is cleaned. Like the biggest punishments that Gorn has been giving out the last couple episodes, we're all about, this isn't painted. Why is there stuff everywhere? Like, we are bringing order to a chaotic world of people that are not like us. And I think that they see that as a service, because they want to feel, in control and things like that. And then we see the things like the ISB in Coruscant, which is so pristine. And I think they're like, why would anyone like to be that? And if a few, we got to break a few dishes, as it were, on the way, why wouldn't you?
But we also see that aspect of the Empire and the parallels with colonialism and the way that they view the Aldani people. And they're like, oh, they're just uncivilized. They won't know. It'll be better for them once we come in and clean things up for these uncivilized people. And they view them as just very one-sided individuals, when at the end of the day, the Aldani are complex and they have these interesting religious traditions. And that, for me, in terms of this is, the 6th episode. So it's the second arc. So the first arc ended with a reckoning, and it had all the people banging, like that town of people banging on the metal, and that was their culture and that was their thing. And the world building in this show has just been so fascinating.
Yeah.
And then the end of this arc that we have is a new kind of reckoning, where we see a new culture of people, and they're watching the Eye, and it's really important to them. And we see, without it being explained, it's like, oh, this is the intricate traditions of this. It's like, it's this really powerful show, don't tell.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, we're seeing, gosh, if that's the way the show is going, because everything's intentional, right? We get the small community rising up, and then at the end of this episode, Coruscant is now hearing about a planet or so kind of rising up. And then at the end of the night, like, what is going to keep happening, going, which actually leads me to my final question for you fellas before we wrap up today. Next episode, we get a single. It is a 1 episode. It is written. It is written, a bottle episode written by the writers of one of your favorite shows. I know, Steven, The Americans, is the writer, and it's directed by a person who directed on The Crown. So just purely based on those stylistic things, I feel like a very espionage dialogue heavy episode could be in. Charles, what do you think is likely that we might get before our next big 3 episode arc? If you were a Gilroy and you were like, all right, I'm making the schedule, what's coming up?
Dude, I don't know. If it's a one-off and Diego Luna talks so much about how this is an ensemble show, what if we get an episode that Cassian's not even in? Like, what if we got one that just focused on, like, a rebellion battle? You learn more about the hierarchy of the rebellion, but Cassian's not there because he walked away. And then we bring him back into the fold after that. I think it could be interesting.
I think that could be it.
My guess is it's Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, we do know he comes in at some point, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
Call it war. Yeah.
Great line. Yeah.
That could be down. That could be great. I see Rocky in the chat. You're thinking maybe Saw Gerrera. K2 I'd be down for, except Alan Tudyk has said he's not in season 1.
Yeah.
People lie all the time, but, I think personally it would be really cool to have an entire Mon Mothma-centric episode of just her when she leaves the Senate with the iPad of, like, all the Twitter alert that, like, hey, rebellion's going on. I want to see her going through a day in her life episode of like she gets up in the morning and it's very quiet and she has a fight with Perrin.
No, Perrin's laying there
God.
wearing a CPAP for sure.
Oh my God, yes. Perrin has a CPAP and she's like I can't sleep without it. He's like, I can't breathe without it. Jeez. That would be great. But just gotta go through her day as a senator, kind of see what she's doing, all her clandestine meetings dealing with this. That would be what I would love personally the most. But
wasn't she supposed to have a dinner? Like, isn't there supposed to be a dinner?
Oh, it happened off screen.
Yeah, it was off screen.
Oh, it did happen off screen.
Yeah. We saw the morning after.
Lame. I was thinking it was yet to happen.
It could have been a good scene.
Sky. Who's that character we wanted to see? The
Sly
bald Sly Moore. Yeah.
That's what I was hoping for. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so. Dang it.
Yeah. We got to put it in the comic.
We skipped the awkward dinner and got the awkward breakfast. That's what happened.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure there will be awkwardness next week, but like, as we're ending up today, I just want to say what a miracle that we're watching this show. I think that we talked so much about the political and emotional intricacies of this, but also at the top, we did admit this is one of the most visually stunning things in the history of Star Wars in 45 freaking years. Like, I am just so amazed that this episode happened. And I think if you want to go all filmmaking outside macro, next episode will probably be a bit cheaper, right? It was probably very expensive to make all these effects. But, I mean, as the Gilroys have shown, with Andor, you can put two people in a room and they can talk for 50 minutes, and that's I'm enraptured.
Yeah. I also will say, in terms of the miracle of this show, when they first announced, so however many, I think it was 4 years ago that they announced that Andor.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was 2018, I think, that they announced that Andor was going to be a thing.
Wow.
And when they first did, I was like, why? Like, who is this show for? Like, we all know he dies eventually, but
it's for us.
It's honestly, like, I'm so happy to be proven wrong, because I wasn't excited at all for this show, and now it's like my favorite thing.
Yeah. Oh, we're so happy. And to all of you in the chat, I'm seeing how much you all are loving it so much. Bert, I have not gone back and rewatched the trailers for Andor yet, but I am going to do that probably when it's over. Because, y'all, here's a last little Easter egg. If you haven't watched the Rogue One first trailer in a while, go do that. None of those lines are in the movie. So it's a different film. So I'm really excited to go back. And oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about Cyril eating cereal and getting berated by his mom more. And there's so many things to come in another half of the season. I can't wait.
I want to know what's okay. Real quick. I know we got to go real quick though.
Do it. Two
things. So we're seeing two different characters. So Cyril, is that his name?
Yes.
Okay.
Cyril Karn.
And then who's the girl in the ISB?
Dedra.
Yeah, Dedra. So we're seeing two people who are trying to fight for something that they're passionate about in their cause, and no one is here for it. They get shot down. Both sides are just like, no, just like quit doing this thing. It's not worth it.
Yep.
My theory is that one of them or both of them are going to go in different directions, and one of them I think is going to become sympathetic for the rebellion, and the other one's going to become just double down on the Empire. And I think it's going to be that Cyril becomes sympathetic of, or he really wants to be part of the Empire, and I think it's going to be to his demise. And Dedra is, I think, eventually going to become recognize what's going on and become sympathetic for the rebellion.
Ooh. I think it's possible. I think ultimately we'll have to see what Cyril's uncle Jack Harlow, who I'm assuming is who that is going to bring in, and is he good or bad? It's Uncle Harlow. That's his name. Yeah, it's Uncle Harlow. I'm like, come on now. He's going to go to college game day, and then he's going to join the Empire again. It's going to be great. I do think one of them is going to maybe go. I agree. I think the split is going to be interesting, but I love the way that Dedra is like just putting those pieces together. And when she finally figures out the plan, will she think it's a good enough plan that she will also join? Or does she have all the evidence that she needs to make a presentation to ISB to destroy them? Either way, it's going to be hella good TV.
Are you a fish or are you a thief? That's her line from the trailer. So
It is. I ask myself that every single day. And everyone else, I hope you ask, you know what? Are you a fish or are you a thief? Let us know. Both in our YouTube comments and our Discord. Everyone's been hanging out. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We freaking love this show. We still have a half season to go. Cannot wait for more Andor. Steven, thank you for joining us on this Saturday. Of course, man. Well, we're definitely going to have you back to chat all about this spectacular show. And to everyone else, thank you for watching and listening to this episode of Bounty Hunt. Keep your eyes out for our next hunt when we will be diving into that bottle episode 7 of Andor. And remember, Rings of Power is now over. House of the Dragon is almost over. So eventually it'll only be Andor. We're living in the best TV timeline. I love it so much. A special thank you goes out to Brian Dooley, Patrick Ortiz, Earl Q, Robert Thomas, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and James T., Elizabeth Cloutier, Ashley Ingalls, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. Go ahead and tell us all your thoughts about Discord and our Discord community, or about Andor. I messed it up. I usually get that. About Andor and our Discord community at utini.com/Discord. Use those spoiler tags, please. Follow the main show on Twitter at Living Force Pod, and all of us individually for our latest thoughts about all things Star Wars. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Corey is at Corey M. Helton. Charles is at C. Henkel. And Steven is at Steven Smith 88. Until next time, are you a thief or are you a fish?
I'm a fish.
I don't know. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Corey's going to end this. We'll see when it ends. Now. All right, we can leave. Bye, everybody.
Bye.